The Emperor is dead. Now his most elite followers turn on each other to decide what the Empire itself will become. This transmission covers the Emperor's Royal Guard, the full saga of Kanos and Carnor Jax told throughout the Crimson Empire, how their feud shaped the post-Endor Empire, and how the comics themselves came to be. The crimson-robed Imperial Royal Guard are Palpatine's elite, his last line of defense. These silent protectors are absolutely loyal. They can be seen flanking the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. These troops are yet another example of memorable design that sears itself in audiences' brains the second they see them. The unique shape of the helmet, the undefined form under the robes, and crimson red in an empire full of black, white, and gray. Their look and legacy carries on in the Sovereign Protectors and then the Praetorian Guard as the timeline continues. To be clear on this point, it's not exactly one organization taking new forms. The versions share similar design concepts and similar purpose, but they are regimes reinventing the past rather than the same exact group evolving over time. Canon intentionally keeps the details sparse to keep the mystery behind the helmet alive. We know they're recruited from the best of the best Imperial troopers and officers. They're trained to fight in intense situations in close proximity to the leader of the galaxy and the Sith. Legends doesn't just give us a peek into the Guard, but it gets personal. One story in particular sets the bar for Royal Guard lore and answers the question, what happens to the men who swore their lives to the Emperor after he's gone? After being carefully scrutinized, very few troops are selected for the Royal Guard training program. Prospects are then shipped to Yinchorr, a harsh planet in the expansion region. This planet was populated by the Yinchorri, who were always at war amongst each other. Darth Plagueis and Palpatine, at the time going by Darth Sidious of course, manipulate these locals into attacking the Republic and the Jedi Order. They lose their uprising and the planet is placed under interdiction. Without going too deep into Yinchorr, I think that the bloody past of the planet and the people already manipulated by the Sith is important to point out for context. The training the Royal Guard undergo was hellish. The classes of prospects were called selections. It allows brutality and attrition to sort the weak from the strong. Of all of the selections, some observed by Palpatine himself, two names stand out above all the rest: Kanos and Carnor Jax. Both men are deadly efficient and effective warriors. Kanos lives for the oath. Jax is more interested in obtaining personal power than serving others' ambitions. Both men made the Guard and bided their time. They perform their duties well and spend their days learning. They learn all the ins and outs at the highest levels of Imperial hierarchy, though each man does it for different reasons. After Palpatine's defeat at Endor, the Empire was a shell of what it once was, but it wasn't done yet. The galaxy becomes full of petty warlords operating for their own idea of law and order as the New Republic struggles to find its footing. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. Carnor Jax was done with a life of servitude. He was ready to put himself at the top seat of the new era for the Empire. He begins rallying fellow Royal Guards to his cause, building a base of strength to intimidate admirals, governors, and moffs into picking sides. Jax learns of a contingency plan that Palpatine had in place. A series of cloned bodies Palpatine's essence could be transferred into, granting him a level of immortality. Jax and some collaborators chosen from the Imperial elite, including a scientist directly involved in the production of the clones, conspire to corrupt the cloning matrix, the idea being that the clone bodies would degenerate over time, which would end Palpatine's immortality. That would eliminate the most legitimate claim to the throne in the eyes of the Empire, leaving a path for Jax to take over. The Emperor's final death is made possible by many who were sworn to protect him and his empire. Kanos refuses to bend the knee to his self-proclaimed replacement in Jax. He isn't there to serve just anyone who calls himself an emperor. He wants to take down Jax before Jax can gain too much momentum in his bid for power. He hunts down those loyal to the Pretender and eliminates them. He becomes something of a vigilante figure in the eyes of the New Republic. He's not part of their new government, but he's doing a great job helping them just the same. Kanos has something of a counterpart within the ranks of the New Republic, a woman named Mirith Sin. Sin has her own scars from the Galactic Civil War. The two have run-ins and butt heads, but it also serves as the heart of this chapter in Kanos' life. The relationship is full of distrust, but also a mutual recognition and understanding between two soldiers who lost far too much. The bloody tug-of-war between the two comes to a head in the most poetic place it could, Yinchorr. The two return to the training grounds that forged them in the first place. Jax arrives with full fanfare. He's in his full Imperial attire, royal guards backing him up, and delusions of permanence in his goals. The fight that follows is complicated in what it means, but simple in execution. The men go head-to-head using the skills they acquired through long careers serving Palpatine. There are no speeches necessary. It's almost like the result was predetermined so many years before, when one man chooses to honor his oath and the other one looks out for himself. This part of the story puts the reader into an interesting predicament, because we're all rooting for the guy who's honoring his oath that is seen as noble, but the oath is to the Emperor and the Empire, which is completely not noble. You're really rooting for a bad guy amongst two bad guys. It is right on with the themes of Star Wars. A man of service eliminates a selfish man who's gathering too much power. The path ahead of Kanos looks open for him to seize power for himself, but he stays true to who he is and does something that many would not expect. He walks away. After some time, he does resurface in the galaxy using an alias, Kennex Kill, once again to act as a vigilante and settle debts on a bloody ledger. The power vacuum of the Emperor still hasn't been filled. There's an Interim Ruling Council pretending the order of the Empire is still intact. They try to uphold the appearance of civility and organization, but are just as power-hungry and fight internally as Jax did before. One of these power-hungry Imperials, Xandel Carivus, sees his chance with Jax out of the way. Carivus is one of the elites that helped Jax finish Palpatine for good. Carivus begins making real moves toward taking the throne while his competition is distracted fighting each other over relative scraps. Kanos resurfaces, his mission reignited. He sees the entire council as pieces of the same betrayal against the Empire that he swore his life to. He sees them as weak men who are using the Emperor's death to carve out smaller empires for themselves. He sees them as a problem that he needs to solve. Mirth Sin also re-enters the picture with a clearer understanding of who Kanos is. She knows the two of them are on opposing sides, but her desire to gain the New Republic some stability has her and Kanos' goals aligning. The Ruling Council is growing bolder in their approach to re-establish the Empire throughout the galaxy. Their actions threaten to reignite regional wars. Kanos assassinates the most heinous members of the Council, causing chaos amongst their ranks. They begin to turn on each other. Kanos' actions indirectly accelerate Carivus' plans, and he christens himself Emperor. Luckily and predictably, Kanos executes him soon after. This is not a bid for Kanos to seize power for himself, but to punish Carivus for his treachery to the Empire. Even with Kanos and Sin seeing eye to eye and having some goals aligning, that does not mean that Kanos is a joiner. He is a solitary man on a mission, and his mission remains his own. He doesn't join the New Republic. I really like this aspect of this story because so often it seems like if someone falls to the dark side, they become a Sith. If someone's on the good side, they're with the Jedi, the Republic. There's more nuance to people than that. This guy, Kanos, is technically still a bad guy. We should see him as that because he's still fighting for an empire that once was. Yes, he's eliminating other Imperials, which is great, but that does not mean that he's with the good guys, and for the story to take that more subtle approach, I think is why it has stood out in fans' minds for so long. Years go by with Kanos laying low. The galaxy grows. The New Republic is no longer struggling to find its footing. The Imperial Remnant is still operating, their powers diminished, but the Warlords in charge are finally starting to work together. I guess desperate times calling for desperate measures and all that. Kanos is an older man now, bearing the internal and external scars of a hard-fought life. Despite the age and the miles, he's still incredibly dangerous. He catches wind of the Remnant planning one more Hail Mary push, one more war, one more event that would see an incredible loss of life. Kanos decides he needs to step up once again. I don't want to go full spoilers at the end of this huge Kanos saga. It's so worth the read or the revisit if it's been a while for you. The comics are tough to find, but trades can be had at reasonable prices if you're a little bit patient. The culmination of Kanos' story shows a lot of growth for a man who could have led a life as a drone for an evil cause. He's a man who has learned nuance, learned to tell the difference between loyalty and fanaticism. He sees this in the men that he targets as well as himself. The men he kills, he does for personal reasons. They drape themselves in the trappings and symbols he once served, but without Palpatine, they're pretenders with hollow ideas. The lives he saves over the years are not because they're on his side, nor he on theirs. They're almost incidental in his journey to expose the emptiness of the Remnant's restoration movement. For Kanos, there is no empire without the Emperor. Crimson Empire has resonated with fans since it debuted in 1997 because of how personal the stories get. Instead of following massive galactic events through holotables, star charts, and the heads of governments, we follow two men with similar backgrounds and greatly differing ideals and paths. Not only that, but this is not the same old story of a bad guy seeing the light and joining the good guys. The enemy of your enemy doesn't always make someone with similar goals your friend. Kanos lives between the constructs of the Empire and the Republic, and doesn't touch the battle of the Jedi versus the Sith. It's also one of the few stories that dives into the Royal Guard, looking at what it took to become one of these elite and see their purpose. It's also a thematic question to Star Wars to ask what one's identity is if you've never lived for yourself. The first issue of the Crimson Empire comic was released by Dark Horse Comics in 1997. Mark Richardson and Randy Stradley wrote it with art by Paul Gulacy, and I hope I pronounced that right. I apologize, Paul, if I didn't. This story definitely stands up on its own, but it was released at a perfect time for it to really succeed. The expanded universe was alive and well post-Thrawn and Heir of the Empire. Fans were primed and ready for more Imperial-centric stories. Taking the unique visuals of the Royal Guard and contrasting it with a disorganized galaxy made the story told in a visual medium a smash hit. Comics at this time were also finding a new language of pulp and grit. Crimson leads into these trends with a book that feels raw. It keeps dialogue to a minimum and the action high. This transmission has been long requested by many viewers. I hope I delivered what you were all looking for and had a great time stepping back into this world. I was pleasantly surprised that when I went over it, I never actually got to read the conclusion of Kanos' story, and only had a history with the first arc. I'll take any excuse to uncover more amazing Star Wars stories, so if there's a story, character, ship, weapon, anything that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to my ever-growing list of videos to make. Thanks for watching. Check out this transmission next for more Star Wars lore.